Hi! We had a couple technical difficulties, but I think we're on the internet now. So welcome to the first ever Facebook Live video. I thought this would be kind of a fun way to talk about various topics related to family law, a coffee with Kabara Facebook Live. So I have my coffee. It is a peppermint mocha triple shot because when you have a 10-month-old, you must add extra shots to every coffee.
I remember fondly.
And as a dog lover, I have chosen a topic near and dear to my heart to talk about this month, pets and divorce. I'm going to be speaking with Scott Weinbaum. Scott is a partner at Maddox and Jurok, located in Falls Church, Virginia. He has been exclusively practicing in the area of family law for over 5 years now, and I think more generally practicing prior to.
Yes, I've been practicing for 7 years at this point.
Awesome. Scott is married. He has a toddler. He has a dog, obviously, Harvey. He loves sports, and he's kind of an expert in this field of pets and divorce. He's published on the topic. He's presented on the topic. I haven't even thought about the topic until today, right now. So I thought he'd be the perfect person to talk to. So let's get started.
All right.
I just said you have a dog now, Harvey.
I do.
Did you grow up with dogs?
No, and in fact, I was absolutely petrified of dogs as a child. Wasn't any particular incident that led me to that, but would avoid friends' houses with dogs, would avoid family friends' houses with dogs. I was wholeheartedly petrified.
Just the noise and the barking, maybe?
Hard to say what it was. I didn't like being jumped up on. Maybe that was it. But the threat of being bit, which of course none of these dogs ever would have done. But I don't know. But yeah.
What changed your mind?
Meeting my wife, basically. So we started dating in law school. And she is a humongous dog person, and she always has been. And basically, when we were going to move in together, she said it wasn't, can we get a dog? It was, we were getting a dog. And
I like your wife already.
Yes. And so there, I basically just had to adjust accordingly.
Yeah. And how did you guys find Harvey?
So because I was so hesitant, we did have an agreement as to us getting a dog. So I was going to be able to pick the type. I wanted a puppy, so it felt more like my dog. I got final naming rights too. So we agreed on a cockapoo, which is what Harvey is. And we started looking at different breeders because, you know, in order to find something so specific, you have to get really lucky with a shelter. So we were looking and found a place, and he was actually a joint law school graduation gift from my in-laws.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
It's adorable. And is Harvey more like a family member or like a pet in your house, would you say?
He's a family member. He, once my son is in bed, most of the time we're sitting on the couch and just sort of decompressing from the day, and he'll find his way to just smush into you as much as possible. You know, we have to plan evenings and such in addition to around our son, certainly around, you know, how are we going to make sure Harvey's had his dinner and has been walked. And yeah, he's a family member.
That's something I noticed too. You know, of course, we had Higgins before we had Amelie. And so we would have to go home. We couldn't like go to happy hour after work. We would have to go home, obviously, and feed him and walk him. And now that we have the baby, in some ways, like we can take her out to do stuff with us all day long on the weekend, but we can't do that because we can't just leave the dog home alone.
Right. It's, he's by himself. He gets walked a couple times a week, and my wife actually works from home 2 days a week, so she's with him. Yeah, but we still feel bad on the weekends when we're out and we're taking my son out, and we got to make sure we're home for Harvey, though.
Right. So how did you become interested in the topic of pets and divorce?
So I had seen an article pop up at the beginning of 2018, I guess it was 2018, in February, that Alaska had become the first state in the country to institute a law where they actually had, they could award a custody schedule for a pet. So they had essentially custody factors like we have for children everywhere, well, at least in Virginia. And they became the first state to say, well, we're going to do that for pets also. And so that, you know, now being at this point, having been a dog father for a long time, it was interesting to me because I dealt with pets in sort of an abstract at some points. Like I drafted in a previous life at this point, I drafted pet trust as part of a will, where you kind of leave money for your pet, but you leave money to someone specifically earmarked for the care of a pet.
Right.
So, but I was interested by this, Alaska, which is far away and remote.
Yeah, Alaska pioneering pet rights or something, I guess.
Seemingly so. So I got interested in it, and so I did a little bit of research at that point, and it is the only state that does it. Every other state and DC treats pets like property. And so was the basis of my article. And
welcome, Mom, Aunt Amy. That's awesome. So it's great that Alaska has this kind of law with different factors. It's a whole nother way of looking at a pet. So if Alaska has kind of custody factors to determine, I guess, the best interest of the pet or something.
Essentially.
Then how does Virginia divide pets up?
So in Virginia, it's very clear, pets are property. So as far as a court is concerned, it's the same as your sofa, as your, signed baseball memorabilia. It's all treated the same, pretty much. So it's treated the same in that it can't award a piece of property to two people. So it's going to undergo the same kind of analysis as far as the court is concerned that we would with any piece of property if that's in dispute in a divorce case. So first, determining whether it's marital, separate, or hybrid, although hybrid kind of seems difficult in this case.
Right.
And then once that's determined, assigning a value to it. Now, of course, this is hugely problematic because while we can find, how much does it cost to buy X type of dog, that has no reflection on its actual value to any pet owner. And
of course, as an aside, in Virginia, the court is not supposed to put just a fair market value necessarily on property. It is supposed to put how much that particular piece of property is worth to the individuals involved in the case.
Right. And it's impossible to do. And, to do it the other way too, you'd have to discount for the fact that the pet is X years old. So it's not going to, it just doesn't
has arthritis.
Right. So, or kidney issues or whatever it might be, but somehow it has to come up with some value. And then the third step of the analysis is, okay, we've done that. Now who takes the pet and keeps it? And it's going to be one party. But the reason I sort of said, I kind of equivocated before or just hemmed and hawed on it was because there is a case, and it's not published, where this issue came up. And while the pet was ultimately awarded to the husband in the divorce, and the Court of Appeals upheld that, what the court did was really looked at, okay, who found this dog? Who cared for it? What were the respective responsibilities in raising it? A little bit less, who went to the vet with the dog, right. And these are very similar to the custody factors.
It is.
It's historical involvement, willingness to cooperate, to
decision making,
take, best
who's
interest
the dog closer to.
Exactly. And so ultimately, it was awarded to the husband in that case. And it couldn't make a custody schedule, but really what it was doing is doing that same kind of analysis, which is interesting, because you certainly wouldn't do that with your typical piece of property.
Right, with a car. You wouldn't say who's, the person that's going to get the car is the one who happened to take it in for the oil changes. The court doesn't care who took it in for the oil changes. No,
and realistically, right, a car, at least you have somebody who drives it.
Right.
But for furniture, they're going to say, whatever, what's the value? We're going to put this into two columns. We're going to divide it approximately equally, and that's going to be that.
So the court in Virginia just treats pets like property. Have you noticed, is that how clients though think of their pets, or are clients sometimes seeking to come up with a kind of arrangement that they might not get in court?
Yeah, so I've been asked about it before, though I don't actually think I've written in it. So the nice thing one of the nice things about signing a marital settlement agreement is you can go outside what a court is sort of allowed to do, right? We can get so much more flexible, we can do so many more things. And so if you want to write in a custody schedule for a pet, you can go ahead and do that. I don't think I've done that. I have been asked about pets in various different contexts. A lot of the time, it's the parties will agree that one person is going to keep the pet, but the client, I have noticed this happened a few times, will ask, oh, well, I want the other person to contribute to vet bills.
I have seen that a lot.
I don't know where that comes from, and it's certainly not something the court's going to ever order, so it's something I'll let the client know about, but they'll ask, and I've had it agreed to before.
I also wonder what the vet bills are for their pets, because I have had a lot of clients ask that too.
Mm-hmm.
I have the kids, I'll keep the pets. That makes sense. Our daughter is attached to the dog or whatever. But the other party needs to help me chip in towards those vet expenses. I think I have an expensive dog, and his vet bills are $800 a year maybe total.
Right.
And so it's kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of silly to say.
It does. And I think it would maybe make more sense if it's a really old pet with a lot of chronic issues, or a puppy where they still need tons of different shots and things like that. But I agree with you. Another thing I've seen too, though, is, and I guess you can say that the pet ends up with both parties, is that the pet will travel with the child. It's kind of a situation like you just said, where the child is really closely attached. So I've done that once or twice before, where there was an agreement that the pet was going to sort of travel back and forth.
Right.
So it wasn't a custody schedule, but it kind of was, because ultimately that the pet was going to be in both places, and it was going to track exactly with the child.
And I haven't dealt with this, but I imagine the idea of there being not just a pet, but a service animal kind of complicates this whole issue even more.
Yes. There's actually a relatively new update to the statute in juvenile court recently, where the court can award that a service pet, and remember, this is property, so not something that the juvenile court would have jurisdiction over.
Right.
But it is that the service pet can go or be assigned, or whatever you want to say, because I guess it can't award property, right, to whichever party it is that needs that service animal. So in a sense, it's a bit of an expansion again in the world of pets, although ultimately not, awarding because I just never think they'll actually go that far. I think courts, especially in Northern Virginia area, are a little backed up as it is.
Right.
And so the willingness in this area to expand, to allow parties to argue custodial schedules, it doesn't seem very likely to me.
Oh, right. Would it be a whole nother trial, for example? Or...
Right. I mean, and ultimately, could you argue it as part of your equitable distribution trial? You could, but, I think that you'd end up with a lot of maybe even unmarried couples who move in together and they get a pet and then ultimately decide to break it off for whatever reason. They're going to want to take the pet home. And I just don't see the court adding that to its...
So the juvenile court, of course, does have jurisdiction over custody and child support for children whose parents were never married, for example. Right. Would that court then be deciding pets?
It could.
That would be so...
right. I mean, it just couldn't. And we're limited in Fairfax to how long for a custody trial in juvenile court at this point?
We are.
And
3 hours.
It's 3 hours, and that's if you can sort of beg and plead with the court to get a little bit more time, but you better have compelling circumstances.
Right.
So there just isn't room on the docket to do this, and so it's going to be a problem. I'm sure it is a problem for couples who get together, don't get married, ultimately break up, and then don't agree on that.
So what if there's a couple that is breaking up and they have a pet and they have maybe, property as well that needs to be divided, but they know that they want to have a custody schedule, say, with their pet. They can't decide on everything else. Is there an option for them?
Yeah, you can do a partial agreement. Just like, sometimes people agree, we're going to sell the house, we're going to split the proceeds, but we can't agree on spousal support, right? So they draft up a partial marital settlement agreement where they agree to that one piece of it. So in this case, if you're going to be able to, it seems a little bit like it might work the other way in actuality, but you can certainly do it. You can say, we'll draft up a partial settlement agreement. It'll contain a custody arrangement for the pet. And then if we have to duke it out the rest of it through litigation, we can do so.
Great. Is there anything that I should have asked you but didn't about this topic?
I'm trying to think. I think I've started to be asked about this a little bit more now, and maybe this just by virtue of me paying a little bit more attention to it and having written and spoken on it.
But there seems to be an increase, maybe an interest in this area.
I think there is. I don't foresee it getting anywhere with the state legislature, with the courts, just because I just think it would be impossible. Especially, I mean, in more remote counties, is it possible? Who knows? But I just don't think that the courts have the bandwidth in this area to deal with it. And so I think it wouldn't get any traction on a state level. But I think that, people are more interested in divorce processes are as contested as ever. I mean, sometimes you get lucky and they're nice and smooth, but that's often not the case. And when it's a member of your family, which many of us, or most of us even, who are pet owners think of them as, why would we assume that argument would not be part of the process?
And I'm going to step into something that is one of my favorite things to do, which is play fake psychologist.
Okay.
So millennials are having fewer and fewer children. We're having smaller families or just no children at all.
Right.
But we're still pet lovers. So to the extent that there are more and more married couples, I see that I'm divorcing that just chose never to have kids, which is a wonderful choice if you want to make it.
Right.
But maybe do have pets, and those pets have kind of replaced the thing that we're really caring for a long period of time and making joint decisions about. I can see that why more and more people maybe are interested in figuring out how to divide pets, not just based on this pet is worth $500 and it's going in your column.
Right. Now, of course, if you do that, you have to consider that you'll have to continue to co-parent with this other person, just like you would with a child. Now, it may not be for as long, but it's going to come up with the same issues, medical issues, and I need to go on vacation. Can you watch while I'm away? And I don't know if you're going to have a right of first refusal for a pet, but you certainly might. But yeah, you're going to have to run into necessarily co-parenting if you're going to go ahead and sign up for that.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk with me about this topic.
Very welcome. I was happy to do this.
And how can people get in touch with you if they have any more questions?
Well, you can email me. It's a long email address, but I can try to
I'll put it below. I'll put it in the comments.
That'd be a lot easier.
And I'll also put a link to his profile on the website.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this has been my very first Coffee with Kabara. Thank you to Amy, my mom, and Matt, who I'm sure all feel very obligated to watch, but I appreciate it. Next month in December, I'm going to be speaking with a licensed clinical social worker, Alicia Cohen, about how to kind of do some self-care through the holidays. I felt like everybody has stressful holidays, whether you're going through a separation or you just have crazy family members, mom, or maybe you just have seasonal affective depression because the sun is setting so much sooner. So I'm going to be speaking with Alicia, and that is on Wednesday, December 11th. So I hope to hear from all of you then. Thank you again, Scott.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.